Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and I'd be able to send watches like this to your inbox as soon as tomorrow morning. If you like this watch, you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches 24 hours a day and globally on thewatchbox.com. We are everywhere. And today we are discussing a watch that may as well be called Godzilla, because this monster is taking over my wrist. It's the Grand Seiko Spring Drive Chronograph SBGC221. So you can see the post-2017 dial with the Grand Seiko marquee at, in this case, roughly 12 o'clock due to the offset caused by the layout of the chronograph dial. Now, it's a chronograph, it's spring drive, but it's also a GMT, and it's also a titanium black ceramic hybrid. So it's not quite as heavy as its sheer wrist real estate would seem to suggest. Let me describe. On my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, the nominal diameter of the decidedly non-round case is 46.4 millimeters. It's a fairly thick watch as well. As you can see, 16.4 millimeters with a rather sheer side. It should slip underneath a jacket cuff, but not a dress sleeve shirt beneath. Two ways to measure lug-to-lug. First is the true lug-to-lug. If you were to throw this watch on a strap, you'd find that it measures 52.4 millimeters across the wrist, but if you count the solid end links of the bracelet, the total span across the wrist becomes a more substantial 55.3 millimeters. Now, a big watch sometimes, but not always, has a big lug spacing. I always appreciate a broad strap or bracelet to match a broad watch so it doesn't torque on the wrist, and this one delivers with a 23 millimeter lug spacing should you wish to accessorize. Now, the timepiece, of course, a hybrid of titanium and black ceramic, continues the theme into the bracelet. You'll note the bracelet is distinctive not just in its bimaterial composition, but also in its finish. There are polished facets, there's satin finished facets. There's also a sort of channeling on the tops of the links and polishing in between the channels. So you'll note satin on the top, polishing within the wells of the links themselves, and then there is a hairline polished bevel laid down by hand. This is all done by eye and hand pressure. So you're actually getting a watch with a large measure of hand finishing, not common in mainstream horology anymore. Equivalent watches from the likes of Breitling, Tag Heuer, Omega, and Rolex will not feature hand-finished bracelets. Now, I do like the two-tone effect created by the polished black ceramic and the titanium, and you can see that because the ceramic is somewhat elevated above the plane of the titanium links, it's your first line of defense against scratching, a quality I appreciate. Now, of course, there is a titanium clasp, and you can use your strap tool to make micrometric adjustments, but it is secured by a twin trigger release system, which is always how these clasps should be put together. It's time to retire friction fit and clamshells in the luxury class. Moving back to the case, you can see there is a taper to the bracelet. It does swell as it approaches the lugs, and the lugs themselves are entirely, at least externally, entirely in faceted and polished black ceramic. Black ceramic, for those who may be new to ceramic as a material, brings both the ability to take and hold a polished luster, but more significantly, the same level of scratch resistance you would expect of sapphire. So if you're not one to shatter or fracture sapphire crystals, this watch is probably going to look just like the day you bought it long term. Ceramic is basically scratch-proof if you don't hit it exceptionally hard. While it can be shattered under extreme circumstances, most users are going to find that they never put a mark in it. Now, the bezel is also of black ceramic with lacquer fill for a high-contrast white-on-black base. The bezel itself serves as the register for the GMT hand on the dial, and I'm going to give us a little bit more light so we can better see these details. But the dial itself is visually unified with the bezel by means of a sloped ray outboard. You can use it for reading minutes as well as chronograph seconds. There is a funky double concentric semicircle constant seconds register at 9 o'clock. You can see there are two hands of two different shapes, two different lengths, and two different colors to make it easier to read constant seconds when the chronograph is not operating. There is a counterweighted and beautifully extended needle-style chronograph seconds hand, a power reserve scale at 7 o'clock to trace the 72 hours of reserve, and Grand Seiko logically arrays chronograph minutes and hours stacked vertically, one atop the other on a single side of the dial. There's a tremendous functional logic about the asymmetry of this dial. It is a calculated asymmetry and functional, not simply quirky. What is quirky is the use of an invert hobnail or waffle dial pattern. You can see it to good effect here, and I'm going to see if I can get closer still and let you see greater detail, but it is a waffle pattern. Each one of the individual hobnails has been inverted and turned down such that the texture is rich and rather like an Eggo. Well, Lego my Eggo if it looks like this. I'm a fan. The timepiece also features applied and somewhat smoked indices for higher contrast against the white base, and you'll note at center the hands, large, faceted, and polished, also slightly darkened Dauphines, feature that same quality of contrast. There will be a loom shot at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Now you want that power reserve scale because this is a complete suite of features. Chronograph seconds, minutes, hours, constant seconds, power reserve, date, GMT hand, all of that powered by a manufacturer movement. Now the standout feature that you can see on the display case back is the continuous unidirectional action of the spring drive governing wheel. More on that in a moment. You can see the column wheel system because this is a column wheel vertical clutch mechanical chronograph. Very crisp, very positive action thanks to the column wheel, and if you listen, you can really hear it, and I can attest, you can also really feel it. The reset action is superb. The tactile quality of this chronograph is as good as the Zenith El Primero, which I consider my benchmark for chronograph feel. The watch also features hacking or stop seconds. You screw out the crown, the watch is 100 meters water resistant. Screw out the crown, pull the crown to extremity. Now you can set the watch while the seconds hand is still. This is for synchronizing to a reference time. You pull the crown out to the intermediate position, and now you can jump time zones forward or backwards. As you cross the international date line, you can actually drive the date in either direction. Note this doesn't stop the seconds hand. You can actually make these changes as you travel without affecting the chronometric precision of your watch. And because it is a spring drive, you have immense precision. Plus or minus 15 seconds per month. Remember, a COSC Swiss chronometer is -4 plus 6 per 24 hours, and that's achieved with this 50 joule spring drive movement. Spring drive has no batteries, it has no capacitors, it has no stepper motors. All it is a spring turning that wheel, creating an induced electrical current that wakes up a quartz oscillator. Now that induced current works with the oscillator and the governing wheel to create a back EMF to slow down the wheel, which, by the way, is connected to the train that drives the hands, or speed up the wheel as necessary to maintain good time. The result is an entirely mechanically driven drivetrain, a watch powered by nothing but a spring that does nevertheless manage to keep quartz caliber time. All of that plus a chronograph, plus high water resistance, plus scratch resistant ceramic, plus hypoallergenic titanium, plus a vertical clutch column wheel tandem and a second time zone. This watch may as well be called Godzilla. This thing is a kaiju for your wrist. See this monster and make it your own on the watch box. Blazing away in the dark with caliber 9R86. This is the Grand Seiko spring drive chronograph, the SBGC221. See it and make it yours on the watch box.